Have you ever opened your refrigerator and asked yourself whether everything inside is truly safe for your health? You might think that the fridge is the best place to store food, prevent spoilage, and extend shelf life, but the truth may surprise you. Some very familiar and commonly used foods in our daily kitchens can silently harm our health when placed incorrectly in the refrigerator, especially for older adults. The warning signs are not easy to spot, as they often appear slowly and quietly. It might only be when you suddenly feel joint pain or when indigestion and bloating disrupt your sleep that you begin to ask questions. So what is really going on in your kitchen each day? According to the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, over 48 million cases of food poisoning occur every year in America. More than 3,000 of those cases are fatal. A significant portion of these involve older adults whose immune systems have weakened with age. More alarmingly, many of these cases originate from the very refrigerator we trust and use every day. This is not just a simple warning. It has been highlighted in multiple reports by respected organizations like Harvard Health, the National Institutes of Health, and National Food Safety Authorities. Let us begin with a food that seems incredibly familiar, one that is almost always present in every household kitchen, from daily meals to dishes served to guests. That food is the potato. With its rustic skin and pleasant taste, potatoes have long been a staple ingredient in many dishes, such as French fries, stews, vegetable soups, and salads. In fact, many people view potatoes as a healthy, low-fat source of energy that is friendly to older adults. However, the worrying reality is that many people today are storing potatoes incorrectly, especially by keeping raw potatoes in the refrigerator. This is a common mistake, but one that can lead to serious and silent consequences for health, particularly for the elderly. When you place raw potatoes in the refrigerator, an important biological process becomes disrupted. Due to the cold temperature, the starch in potatoes quickly converts into simple sugars, specifically glucose and fructose. This may not sound alarming at first, but this transformation leads to a hidden chemical reaction when the potatoes are baked or fried at high temperatures. At that point, the simple sugars combine with a natural amino acid in the potatoes called asparagine to create a new compound known as acrylamide. This is a substance that many medical studies have warned against, as it may increase the risk of cancer if accumulated in the body over time. According to a report published in the International Journal of Food Chemistry and Toxicology, acrylamide mainly forms when starchy foods are cooked at temperatures above 120 degrees Celsius, commonly seen in crispy dishes, such as French fries, toasted bread, or baked potatoes. This means that when you bake or fry potatoes that have already been sweetened in the refrigerator, you are unintentionally increasing your exposure to acrylamide, a compound that does not benefit health, especially for older adults with weakened immune systems who are more prone to toxic buildup than younger people. But that is not the only issue. Storing potatoes in a cold and humid environment like the refrigerator also leads to several other negative effects. First is the change in texture. After some time in the cold, potatoes become soft, watery, and may even turn black or grayish-brown inside. When cooked, these potatoes lose their natural firm texture and become overly sweet, mushy, and lack the characteristic flavor. For older adults who often face digestive difficulties, eating degraded potatoes like this can easily lead to bloating, indigestion, or poor nutrient absorption. Another concern is that the nutritional content of potatoes significantly deteriorates when stored in the fridge for too long. According to research from McGill University in Canada, keeping potatoes at low temperatures for extended periods reduces their vitamin C content. Vitamin C is a crucial antioxidant that helps strengthen the immune system, supports iron absorption, and protects cells. Furthermore, essential minerals like potassium and magnesium may also decline due to faster oxidation in the moist and cold environment. For older adults, maintaining adequate levels of vitamins and minerals is essential for protecting bones and joints, preventing cramps, maintaining muscle strength, and avoiding blood pressure issues. You might wonder why grocery stores or supermarkets usually keep potatoes at room temperature rather than refrigerating them. The reason is that potatoes are a root crop originally from cool and dry climates. The ideal environment for storing potatoes is a dark, well-ventilated area with a temperature of about 7 to 10 degrees Celsius. If you keep potatoes in a kitchen basket, a breathable paper box, or a dry storage corner away from direct sunlight and far from onions and garlic, you can extend their shelf life while preserving their freshness. On the other hand, putting them in the refrigerator speeds up sugar. Conversion dries out the potatoes, ruins their texture, and makes them spoil more quickly. Moreover, one subtle sign that often goes unnoticed is that sweetened and degraded potatoes from the fridge may emit a slightly sweet and unusual smell. Some parts may even appear translucent. When cooked, especially by frying or baking, you may detect a strange taste in the dish. Ironically, many people interpret this as a sign of delicious sweetness and continue storing potatoes this way without realizing that acrylamide is building up in their body every day. In a 2021 survey conducted by the National Institute of Nutrition in Vietnam, nearly 58% of participants admitted to keeping raw potatoes in the refrigerator to preserve freshness. However, potato samples from these households showed significant amounts of excess sugar and signs of structural changes. This is a figure worth pondering, especially considering that older adults often do the cooking or are the ones consuming leftover food in the family. So what is the simple solution? First, you should check your fridge right away. If you see any bag of raw potatoes stored inside, gently take them out and place them in a dry, cool, and ventilated area, such as the bottom shelf of a cabinet or a dark corner of your pantry. If you have already kept potatoes in the fridge for a few days, carefully inspect them. If they have changed color, become soft, or started sprouting, it is best not to use them. Sprouted potatoes also pose another danger. Solanine, a natural toxin that can cause digestive and neurological disorders if consumed in large amounts. For older adults who are managing blood pressure, diabetes, or recovering from injury, using potatoes correctly becomes even more important. One serving of boiled potatoes, weighing around 150 grams, provides approximately 30 grams of carbohydrates, 3 grams of protein, and over 600 milligrams of potassium. Potassium helps regulate electrolytes, reduce the risk of cramps, and support heart health. However, you should only eat potatoes that have been properly stored and have not turned sweet or changed color. In the end, if you are following a healthy diet, trying to maintain muscle mass, reduce joint inflammation, and support digestive health, start with small changes like proper food storage. A simple habit, such as not putting raw potatoes in the refrigerator, can help you avoid hidden risks while preserving the full nutritional value of your daily meals. When talking about familiar everyday foods, especially for older adults, bread is certainly one of the first things that comes to mind. A slice of crispy toast with boiled eggs in the morning, a few soft pieces of bread with meat for an afternoon snack, or simply a plain loaf dipped in milk are all images deeply ingrained in the habits of many Vietnamese families. Bread is not only convenient and affordable, but it also feels easy and pleasant to eat for older individuals. However, there is one thing that many people have never paid attention to. Does storing bread in the refrigerator really help extend its shelf life, as we often assume? Many people, especially older adults who live alone or cook, infrequently tend to buy several loaves of bread to use over time. And to keep the bread from becoming moldy or stale too quickly, they often put it in the refrigerator. But the truth is, this habit may actually cause bread to spoil faster in terms of taste and texture, and can even pose health risks if not done properly. According to food experts at Harvard University, when bread is stored in the fridge, a phenomenon called retrogradation occurs. This is a process where the starch molecules in the bread start to recrystallize when exposed to cold temperatures, making the bread dry out and harden quickly. Instead of keeping the bread fresh longer, refrigeration actually accelerates the stalling process, making it crumbly dry and losing its original aroma and softness. Beyond just texture and taste, storing bread in the refrigerator can also create the perfect environment for mold to grow. When bread loses moisture due to the cold, the outside may become dry, but the interior or parts exposed to uneven cold can become slightly moist, especially when you take the bread out and put it back multiple times. The temperature fluctuation causes moisture to accumulate, which creates conditions for mold to develop. For older adults, especially those with weakened immune systems or those taking medications that lower immunity, consuming moldy bread, even if mold is not visibly apparent, can still lead to issues like digestive upset, fatigue, nausea, or more seriously, poisoning from mold toxins. Certain types of mold on bread can also produce mycotoxins, which are microscopic fungal toxins that may affect the liver, kidneys, and nervous system. If consumed over time, mycotoxins are not completely destroyed by baking or toasting. So once they appear, even reheating the bread cannot eliminate the risk. This is why experts from the World Health Organization have advised that when bread shows any sign of mold, even a small spot, it is best to discard the entire piece, as mold roots can spread deeply inside the bread and are invisible to the naked eye. Some older adults have shared that they often refrigerate bread because they fear Vietnam's hot and humid weather will make it spoil faster. While that concern is not wrong, the proper way to extend the shelf life of bread is not to refrigerate it, but to freeze it. Freezing bread is an effective method recommended by many experts. When bread is frozen right after purchase, the starch structure is locked in its original state, helping to retain its softness, moisture, and flavor. When you are ready to eat, simply take out the desired portion and reheat it in a toaster or microwave, and you will have a slice of bread that is nearly as fresh as when it was new. More importantly, freezing also helps prevent mold growth without the need for preservatives. However, it is important to note that frozen bread should be divided into small portions in advance and sealed tightly in Ziploc bags or airtight containers to avoid moisture causing the bread to become soggy or stick together when thawing. If you typically eat half a loaf or a few slices at a time, divide the bread beforehand for convenience. You should not thaw and then refreeze bread, as this process will make the bread spongy, lose its flavor, and increase the risk of bacterial contamination. For those who do not have freezing conditions or who do not consume bread over a long period, the best approach is to keep bread at room temperature for 1 to 2 days in a sealed box or paper bag, away from direct sunlight and damp areas. If the bread starts to dry out, you can lightly steam it or enjoy it with soups or curries to make the most of it. Nutritionally, bread can be part of a healthy diet if the right type and amount are chosen. One slice of white bread typically provides about 70 to 100 calories, 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates, and 2 to 3 grams of protein. However, refined bread is usually low in fiber and can cause a spike in blood sugar if eaten with sweet or high-fat foods. For older adults with underlying conditions such as diabetes, high blood pressure, or those trying to lose weight, whole grain bread with more fiber and less sugar is a better option. Additionally, eating bread with protein sources like eggs, salmon, or vegetables can help slow down sugar absorption, stabilize energy, and reduce sudden cravings. Another important point is that proper bread storage also helps retain natural antioxidants found in some types of bread, especially those made from barley oats or those containing chia seeds or flax seeds. These breads are rich in B vitamins, magnesium, and healthy fats that support the nervous system, reduce inflammation, and maintain muscle function. This is especially beneficial for older adults who often experience leg fatigue, nighttime cramps, or energy decline. If you have ever felt that bread stored in the refrigerator becomes tasteless, moldy, or hard, now you understand why. A simple action like storing bread properly can protect not only the quality of your food, but also your health and that of your loved ones. Do not let your refrigerator, which is often seen as a safe place, become the source of poor quality food you consume daily without realizing it. Remember that taking care of your health does not have to be something big or expensive. Just by paying closer attention to how you store your food, you can reduce a range of hidden risks and create a solid foundation for a healthier life over time. If there is one ingredient that is both simple and essential in almost every daily meal, it is the onion. From basic stir-fry dishes in family meals to more complex Western recipes like soups, sauces, or baked goods, onions always play an important role in flavor. For older adults, especially those who enjoy cooking for themselves, onions are a familiar companion in the kitchen. But what many people may not expect is that onions are actually on the list of foods that should not be stored in the refrigerator, especially when left for too long or kept improperly. This may sound strange, but there is a clear scientific basis behind it, and it is something worth paying attention to. particularly for seniors with more sensitive digestive and immune systems. The outer structure of an onion includes a dry, thin skin that wraps around the moist inner layers. Under normal conditions, this dry layer serves as a protective shield, helping onions stay fresh by preventing moisture loss or absorption. But when onions are placed in the refrigerator, a humid, cold, and enclosed environment, the internal exchange of gases and moisture is disrupted. The inside of the onion becomes more susceptible to water absorption, especially if it has been peeled or cut. The onion not only becomes mushy, but also begins to release liquid, creating a sticky and unpleasant texture when used. Beyond changes in appearance, the more serious concern is that onions stored in cold and moist conditions can become an ideal environment for bacteria and mold to grow. Many people have the habit of cutting an onion and using half, then wrapping the remainder in plastic wrap, or putting it in a plastic bag before storing it in the fridge. But not everyone knows that even when tightly wrapped, if the onion is not kept in an airtight container and used within 1 to 2 days, it can still be invaded by bacteria, especially on the exposed surface, or any part that comes into contact with fridge moisture. These bacteria are not always visible or smelly, but once accumulated, they can cause digestive issues such as bloating, stomach pain, and diarrhea. This is particularly problematic for older adults with weaker intestines or a history of colitis or irritable bowel syndrome. A study conducted by the University of Georgia in the United States found that root vegetables like onions, when pre-cut and stored improperly in the fridge, can start to develop bacteria in as little as 24 hours. What is more concerning is that these bacteria can grow without oxygen and may cause gastrointestinal infections if consumed in large amounts or if the person has a weakened immune system. For elderly individuals, this risk is even more alarming. There is another characteristic of onions that many people overlook. They release a strong and pervasive odor when stored in the refrigerator, especially one that contains other foods like buttermilk, fruits, or cooked dishes. The natural sulfur compounds in onions begin to evaporate and spread throughout the fridge. These compounds not only cause onions to spoil faster, but also affect the taste and smell of other foods. Many people have reported that when they open a container of milk or take out fruit from the fridge, they notice a faint onion odor, even if the food was wrapped tightly. This is because refrigerators work using air circulation systems, and just one strongly scented item like an onion can cause the entire fridge to absorb that smell. There is also a widespread myth that onions can absorb toxins from the air or attract bacteria. This old belief suggests that placing sliced onions in a room can purify the air or prevent illness. However, according to many nutritionists and microbiologists, this concept has no solid scientific foundation. Onions do not have any biological mechanism to absorb airborne toxins. In contrast, once cut and left in a damp, cold environment for too long, onions themselves become a place for bacteria and mold to accumulate more easily than other foods. Another important point is the risk of cross-contamination when onions are stored near other foods. If onions are placed close to raw meat, fish, or uncooked foods without a clear barrier, the chance of bacterial transfer is very high. In the moist, cold refrigerator environment, bacteria from raw foods can easily spread through humid air or by contact when people repeatedly open and close the fridge. Even if an onion looks fresh on the outside, if it has been exposed to contaminated surroundings, it can become a carrier of harmful bacteria, especially if used raw or only lightly cooked. So, how should onions be stored properly? The first principle is not to keep whole onions in the refrigerator unless absolutely necessary for a very short time. Whole onions should be kept in a dry, ventilated, and dark place, such as in a bamboo basket, a breathable drawer, or a kitchen cabinet. Do not store onions next to potatoes because both release ethylene gas that speeds up ripening and spoilage. When an onion is already cut, place the remaining portion in an airtight container, store it in the fridge, and use it within 48 hours at most. If the onion becomes soft, releases, liquid smells strange, or changes color, it should be discarded immediately. Nutritionally, onions are highly valuable when used correctly. They contain powerful antioxidants like quercetin and organic sulfur compounds that help reduce inflammation, support heart health, and improve circulation. For older adults, adding onions to meals may help lower blood pressure, thin the blood naturally, and enhance nutrient absorption. A medium-sized onion of about 100 grams contains approximately 40 calories, 9 grams of carbohydrates, nearly 2 grams of fiber, and B vitamins. especially B6 and folate, which are essential for nerve function and energy production at the cellular level. When onions spoil due to improper storage, not only is the quality of the meal affected, but much of their nutritional value is lost. Valuable compounds like allicin and quercetin break down quickly in moist environments or oxidize more rapidly when exposed to improper cold temperatures. This significantly reduces their anti-inflammatory benefits, immune support, and digestive aid benefits that are especially important for older adults. In short, onions are good for your health, but only when stored and used properly. A simple action like avoiding refrigeration or using airtight containers instead of plastic wrap can make a big difference for your health and that of your family. Changing a small habit today can help you avoid hidden health risks in the future and ensure that every meal is both delicious and safe. After exploring these three very familiar foods, potatoes, bread, and onions, you have likely come to realize something important. In daily life, not everything familiar is always safe. What seems like a harmless potato, a soft loaf of bread, or a few dried onions sitting in the kitchen can actually pose potential health risks if stored the wrong way. And the refrigerator, often seen as the safest place in the kitchen, may sometimes be where silent changes begin causing food to lose nutrients, change in taste, or even develop harmful compounds without you knowing. The good news is that everything can be improved, starting with very small actions. A simple change, such as not placing raw potatoes in the fridge, choosing to freeze bread instead of refrigerating it, or keeping onions in a dry place instead of a humid one, can help you protect the nutritional value of food, avoid bacterial contamination, and most importantly, maintain good health for yourself and your loved ones. For older adults, taking care of health does not necessarily require big or complicated steps. Sometimes it is the small and careful habits, like how food is stored, that determine long-term quality of life. When you eat right and store food properly, you are not only nourishing your body, but also protecting your health in a quiet but lasting way. What may seem simple could actually be the foundation for preventing common health issues, such as joint pain, cramps, digestive disorders, or weakened immunity in old age. If you found today's sharing helpful, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the upcoming content. In the next episode, we will continue to explore 3 other foods that may seem harmless, but can silently damage your digestive system, weaken your immune defenses, and even reduce the effectiveness of the nutrients you are trying so hard to absorb each day. The upcoming information will not only help you avoid common mistakes, but also suggest safer and more senior-friendly alternatives. Are you storing potatoes, bread, or onions in the fridge? After hearing this, are you surprised? Leave a comment below and share your story with me. How are you taking care of your health? Your sharing might help someone else out there on a similar journey. Wishing you good health, peace, and the strength to take control of small daily habits that build a strong and healthy body from within. See you again in the next part of this video series, where we will continue to uncover hidden secrets in your everyday kitchen. Are you ready?